going to show everybody how to create a LS1 standalone wiring harness for an LS swap. I've got a 5.3 liter swapped vehicle, but I've also done 5.7, 6 liters, other engines of that type into other cars, so it's all pretty much the same. I'd like to document my process this time. I am currently at my favorite wrecking yard, which is very near my house, and my buddy in Denver is wanting to put a 5.3 liter aluminum block in his E30, which is super cool. So I'm going to go fly out next week and help him with that. And meanwhile, I am searching for a wiring harness, fuse block, and EC for him. I've got HPTuners to delete the security vats off of it, so it will run without the body control module. And but right now I'm just going to actually get the hardware, the hard parts. So what I'm looking for, I haven't been here in a couple months, so cars are pretty stripped here typically, but I'm gonna just kind of start going down the rows and finding a 1999 to 2007 Chevy truck with me, because that's what he has, and I'll show you how to do tell the differences between a Gen 3 and a Gen 4 later when I find a couple. Alright, I found my first Gen 3 truck. This looks like some sort of Suburban. Oh, it's 2002 Chevrolet Suburban up there. This is junk, what I'm showing you, but I just wanted to go through what to look for, or basically not look for. So you do not want any part of this harness cut. I can very obviously see that it's cut just from looking at it. The injectors are all cut up. They've already stripped this off, took one of the heads. But just a quick look at these motors, you can really tell if it's a Gen 3 or Gen 4 pretty easily. So I'm looking for a drive-by cable throttle body harness. This would have been perfect, but it's stripped, no big deal. One thing you can do is look at the head numbers. The head number is back here. The other head is gone. That's an 862, so that's a very run-of-the-mill iron block 5.3. You can see that it's iron. The LM4 that my buddy has also has 862. The dead giveaway for a Gen 3 is right here in the valley. You can typically see this, but Gen 3s have the knock sensors in the valley cover here, and Gen 4s do not. They're a flat plate. But anyways, the crank wheel, which is down there, this is the crank sensor, has a 24 tooth wheel on the crank for the ECU to trigger the injectors and all that, and then the Gen 4s have it. Alright, I think I just got super lucky. I think I found a early extended cab Silverado. Looks like a tweaker owned it and painted it goofy. But this is a drive-by cable harness. I see MAF. AC, not a big deal. But we can deal with that later. Looks like nothing's been cut off of it yet. All the stuff is down there. Injectors are looking good. This looks actually really nice. There is a wire going into the fuse box, which kind of scares me, but I'll check that out after I take this apart. So I'm going to start working on this and seeing if I can get the harness out of here intact, and if it is truly an uncut harness. But right now it's looking really good. The ECU is under this case, so this just slides out pretty easy. There it is, just clips in here. So everything looks nice with the connectors. Into the fuse box and just take a better look at it before I get too far. Someone has taken all the fuses out of here, which is not a huge deal. We can go rob some from another different truck, but this just comes out pretty easy. And there's your fuse box. Alright, so there are two screws back here that we take off, and then these little tabs let it come up. So this is what you want right here. This is the engine control harness. Obviously it goes to the ECU and back to the engine. It makes a couple connections. We're going to cut off on the other side of the connectors, everything basically to get it out of the truck. But this goes back to the body, so we don't care about it for the most part. This is like ABS stuff. This is all BCM body control module stuff, but we're going to keep everything that is going back to the harness loom and the ECU, and then take the entire fuse box. So I'm going to get this turned around and start cutting. So right now everything is attached to the harness still and the fuse block. I don't really need to go cut all these. I'm just going to pull them off of the fuse block here and leave them with the truck. It is a 7mm. Okay. So the fuse block and ECU are free of the truck. Now we will work on getting all of this off of the truck. All right, so I'm stripping the engine of the harness. Just kind of work your way around and go in a logical progression to get all this stuff off. Kind of started with the throttle body, got these connectors off, got this evaporation emissions thing off, alternator. Map sensor, go ahead and pull the entire sensor off with the connector. Just leave it on there. This is the NOx sensor harness down here. Unplug that. There's a plate here that holds the harness in. 10mm bolts, pop that off so this can be free. There's a 10mm bolt there. Get the springs out of the way, or the cables out of the way for the throttle body. I'm going to pop this one off, put it to the side. The coil harness comes off really easily, just one connector there. It's easier to just pull the entire harness than go back and harvest the 4 coils on each side. It's actually really easy to do, so I'm going to come back and do that later. The injectors are a real pain in the butt. They have this gray thing that slides in there and won't let you press this out, so you have to pull this gray part up and then kind of feel with your fingers, get that thing popped up, push it in, have them pull it back out. They're kind of a pain, but anyways, got all 4 of those. All right, so I have the entire harness removed from the engine on the top. There was another emissions thing, great glove, ripped it. Another emissions thing, this front coil set up, all the injectors. This is all the MAF and everything that typically lives around here. This is all loose. Look up from here, there's 2 things that you're gonna need to do. One is go down and get this sub harness that's still attached on the bottom. And then there's the rear O2 sensors that go down here. They're keeping me from pulling that. I have to go cut those, and then the rear grounds are in the back of the engine in a very inconvenient place. All right, I am lazy and I know what I am doing for the most part, so I went ahead and clipped the grounds on the back of the harness. This was normally back here. Just pulled it out front so we could see this. There are 2 grounds on either side, on either branch of the main harness. There's one here, and then there's one clip down there that I cut. There's also, what I forgot is there is the cam angle sensor and the oil pressure sensor are in the back. You just have to kind of feel down here and pop them out. Got both of those out. I'll show you when the harness is out. And then the rest of the 4L60E automatic harness is up in here, so we have to go into the car now and get rid of those. All right, now that I'm under the car, we're going to be deleting the rear O2 sensors, which you can see are here. So we don't really need that sub harness. This is going up to the engine bay. There's the engine. But I will actually be getting as much of this harness off as I can, just so we can have it in case we want it or need it. So I will be pulling off this harness and then clipping it at the O2 sensor because we don't need that. So I got all of the, I've got the passenger side O2 harness out. This is the 4L60E harness cut there. Everything else is intact. That's the O2 side, O2 sensors for the driver's side. Pull this. This is the oil level sender. This is really hard to get to without taking the starter out. My glove is ragged. I forgot tools to pop that. This is a 13mm for the starter. I forgot tools to pop that off. So anyways, you can reach up with your hand above the starter and actually get it out. So the only thing I have left to do is get these lines off of here. They go here to the AC compressor and then run along the front of the pan. I'm just probably going to clip off those plastic attachments and then everything should be sliding out. So this is the last bit of the harness down here that runs by the oil pan. Just pulled that out, so the entire harness is ready to come out of the car. Be careful to just not break off any of the connectors and make sure that it's all good. So let me pull it out of the car now. So here it is, rescued from the truck and all of its greatness. Just to double check, ECU, main harness, fuse block. Make sure you get all of these things. These are spare connectors we'll deal with later. So the main branch of the harness runs over it. We've got the part that goes underneath the engine by the oil pan, and then on down to the O2 sensors. I'll set all this up in the garage and have a cleaner workspace so I can show you, but basically that's how you get it out of the truck. Okay, I'm back at the house. What you want to do is get your harness laid out when it's still fresh on the brain, hopefully, and get it all labeled out. So let me just kind of walk you through this whole setup right here. Obviously ECU, fuse box, we're good to go. This comes into the harness that goes onto the engine. We've got your driver's side coils, injectors. Don't need to really label those because they're pretty apparent where they go. Following down, this is the harness, or this is the branch that goes under the oil pan. So here we've got the head temp sensor for your coolant right there. Here's a ground. These two I think are for AC. There's a website called 5.3 swap. No, sorry, LT1swap.com. They have tons of information about the 5.3 swaps. It's really good. But anyways, here's the crank sensor, crank angle sensor, very important obviously. And there's your oil level sensor. Going back up to the main harness. We've got the alternator. It's only one wire actually. 2 throttle body plugs. Smog, don't care about that. We're going to turn it off. Here this is your ignition coil bracket connector. All your injectors. Here's your knock sensor. This is in the back of the intake manifold. You have your cam angle sensor and your oil pressure fitting or connector. There's another ground that I cut because I ran out of time. Then we go kind of back up here. This is running on top of the manifold. I forgot to label this, but that's clearly the map sensor. I will label that. I've got another ground that I clipped. Passenger side, ignition coils, injectors, and then another smog. This is going alongside by your coolant overflow tank. This is on the passenger side. I'm pretty sure this is the hacked up tweaker guy who owned the truck. This is the AC pressure sensor. This is really key. I think it's a black and red wire. This looks just straight brown to me, but this is how we get the O2 sensor feeding data into HPTuners. So this is important. This is another AC connector, I believe. As you go further on, you have your MAP sensor here. This will plug into your, MAF. This will plug into your mass airflow sensor when it's in the car. And then another, I think this is the coolant level sensor. It's over there by the MAP. All of this coming down from here is the passenger O2s. We only care about the front one, which is there. We will be deleting the rear O2s and HPTuners. And then coming back down on the other side, we have the front O2 sensor, rear O2 sensor. These are all 4L60. These 2 branches that I clipped are for the 4L60, and we don't need those either because the car is getting a T56. So anyways, that's what it looks like. Don't mind the messy garage, but that is what the harness will look like out of the car. Okay, most people are going to want to drive by cable throttle body setup. Which is totally fine, but I actually converted from cable to drive-by-wire on my 240SX that has the 5.3, but I just wanted to show you a little bit of the harness differences and what you'll need to grab. So this is what the throttle body looks like. It's the same 3-bolt style as the cable, but obviously is different. And then so this is completely separate from the harness. It runs in the harness loom, but it's completely separate. Pull it out as you normally do when you're pulling the harness, but you must get this It's called a TAC box. Do not cut any of these looms. And then pull it out like normal, grab the box, and then you have to match it to the pedal of the truck that it came in. This is really gross. Anyways, for my 240, I went ahead and pulled the entire pedal. Notice there's the assembly there, the sensor for your throttle angle. Pull the entire pedal, and I cut mine to fit in my 240. But that is all you need to do for the drive-by-wire, is this box and all the harnesses associated with it, including the pedal. Very important to match that, not only with the wiring harness, but the ECU. I noticed these are blue and green. The drive-by cable harnesses are blue and red, like the one I just pulled.